Welcome, and in this lesson, we're going to very quickly talk about the differences between Docker Enterprise Edition and Docker Community Edition. We now have two different types of Docker. It used to be called Docker Engine. And in fact, if you were to install Docker using current repositories without adding the Docker repository, you might still find Docker Engine in there. And you'll notice that when we're installing it in our course, we're installing something called Docker Community Edition, which is Docker CE. Now, this naming convention was changed after March of 2017. So since then and going forward, we now have Docker Community Edition and Docker Enterprise Edition. Now, of course, as we've already learned, that the Docker Community Edition is free and an open source version of Docker. Now, we also know that anything that you want to do inside of a production environment can also be used with Docker Community Edition. This is completely enough. Docker Enterprise Edition has a few value adds that we're going to learn about here in just a moment. Now, Docker Community Edition was traditionally targeted towards developers as well as teams that are looking to migrate and run Docker containers themselves. So your production environments, you could have the option, or your production clusters, of running more Docker Enterprise Edition. Whereas when you're running and doing development and maintaining your development containers with those dependencies and your development teams, Docker Community Edition is perfectly acceptable and is in fact a preferred solution for that. So you can reduce costs since it's free. And of course, Docker Enterprise Edition does charge by the node. Now, again, Docker Community Edition does maintain the same core features as our Docker Enterprise, except for those value adds. Those value adds include a GUI-based environment and security scanning tools, which we'll learn about here shortly. Now, in place of those additional tools, Docker Community Edition obviously can work with other third-party services, such as a tool called Quay. Quay has this ability to scan Docker images for security vulnerabilities, which is also a service provided by Docker. And one last time, I want to emphasize this is perfectly fine for production level applications. And in fact, as part of Linux Academy and Cloud Assessments, we are running workloads using Docker Community Edition. So let's take a look at our Docker Enterprise Edition. Docker Enterprise Edition is built with security in mind, as well as ease of use with a GUI-based web interface for managing your Docker Swarm clusters, for managing your Docker containers, and so on and so forth. They have an entire program around being certified as trusted plugins, containers, and third-party infrastructures. And so they go through this certification program and they make this available for Docker Enterprise. So what they're really trying to do is give you the ease of mind and have a very huge emphasis on security, which, as we know, in this day and age is very important for us. It automatically has vulnerability scans as part of our Docker images. When I mean automatically, when we pay for Docker Enterprise Edition, we are able to use that service as part of uploading our Docker containers to our Docker private and public repositories. Now, the security scans aren't necessarily fast. We'll learn about it more later in this course. But when you upload the container, it'll go through all this known security database issues and automatically scans those. So this is a huge advantage for us. And of course, with any Enterprise Edition tool, we have support options. Now, Docker Enterprise Edition provides same-day support from Docker, the company themselves. Now, if you're running production workloads, this could be, depending on those workloads, depending on the knowledge and expertise, and depending on maybe you have out-of-the-box extremely complex workloads that aren't really standard basic things like running a simple Rails or Node.js application, then Docker support, same-day support, would be very advantageous to you. So I hope this clears up the difference. And of course, in this course, we are going to focus on Docker Community Edition. And that concludes it for this lesson. Go ahead and complete this lesson and move on.